Welcome to the ETICS Online Tutorials. Module 1, ETICS Overview. Distributed computing almost always requires distributed development. The development teams are often geographically spread and have different technical backgrounds and skills, using different operating systems and programming languages. The services deployed in the distributed infrastructures have to talk to each other using agreed interfaces. They have to adhere to existing standards and comply with software development processes. Tests also have to be done and passed along the entire process. How does ETICS play a role in this? ETICS is a continuous build, test and quality assurance validation system. It comes with an extensive set of built-in features, tools and services and can be easily extended by adding plugins. It can be used to execute scheduled jobs using cron tasks or on-demand user jobs. Jobs can be executed directly on a user computer or submitted to remote distributed infrastructures. ETICS comes with built-in connectors for standard job management systems or infrastructures like PBS, LSF, the grid or clouds, and more connectors can be added as needed. ETICS has an open repository of configuration information, software packages and build test reports, plus support for well-known package management systems like Yum. ETICS is multi-platform and independent from any specific language, source code management system or build and test tool. In a nutshell, ETICS is a complete software development management system that allows developers, integrators, testers and project managers to take full control of their products. A typical ETICS architecture is composed of 6 major components. The web portal is the main graphical user interface. It is used to define and manage project configurations, submit and monitor remote builds and tests, browse the packages and reports in the repository, and much more. The command line client provides very similar functionality as the web portal, but is mainly used to automate the build and test processes, execute scheduled builds and non-active jobs. It is also used to execute build and tests on local user computers. The configuration service handles all configuration tasks, allowing users to create and manage software components, configurations, dependencies, etc. The repository service provides access to the repository digital library to download and upload software packages, reports, quality assurance metrics, etc. The execution engines provide access to the remote management systems or infrastructure. Each engine is designed for a specific system and more engines can be added to allow ETICS to submit to different types of infrastructure. The worker nodes are the systems where remote builds and tests are executed. ETICS can run in physical nodes or virtual machines and can dynamically and automatically instantiate guest virtual machines as necessary. The configuration web client is the main access point to the ETICS configuration database. The main ETICS installation is currently hosted at CERN and can be accessed simply by typing the URL https://etics.cern.ch. The system can be easily installed by end users to manage private projects. The application can be used by guest users, but most operations require a user to register in the system. Registration is based on standard X509 certificates. Users can have one or more roles, such as developer, integrator, tester for example, on almost any object in the database, allowing fine-grained authorization control. The application gives a complete overview of simple and complex projects, allowing full control over the project structure and configuration. Information about the source control system used, the build and test commands, the dependencies, etc. are all easily accessible and manageable. The command line client provides a set of commands to perform many configuration, build and test operations. Using the commands and provided Python APIs, the client can be integrated in more complex processes and workflows. The client is also the typical tool used by developers to reproduce on local computers the build and test tasks to bind in the main ETICS database. The operations are executed in isolated workspaces called workspaces, ensuring as much as possible the reproducibility and portability of the execution environment on many different platforms. Build and test jobs can be executed on local user computers during the development and initial test phases and then submitted to remote worker nodes. The ETICS client ensures as much as possible that a job runs in the same way on local and remote computers. It automatically handles the dependencies, downloading and installing all required packages and libraries. Normally, build jobs can be run as standard user without root privileges. The ETICS client installs the packages in a private repository without the need to change the machine configuration. This allows working on several projects and configurations at the same time, even with conflicting dependencies. Once a developer has executed a build or test on his local machine, the same build or test can be submitted to the remote infrastructures to be validated in parallel on as many platforms as necessary. Detailed results are stored in the ETICS repository for analysis. ETICS includes an online digital library called the repository, where all packages created or used during the builds and tests can be stored. The repository also stores the reports for each build and test and the metrics generated during the execution by the various plugins. The repository generates automatically APT and YUM-based repositories for every executed build, which can be used to automate the execution of deployment, integration, and functional tests. The repository content can be browsed using the repository web application or REST interface, which supports XPath and SQL queries. A mountable AFS-based file system is also provided. The repository web application can be used to browse all available packages and reports. Packages and reports are stored in a structure similar to the project structure used in the configuration web application to make it easy to navigate complex projects. Packages are stored by project, component, version and platform. For each build or test submitted for remote execution, the repository shows a summary of the results with direct links to all corresponding packages and reports. For each package, a property page can be easily displayed, showing all details of a package for any of the supported formats. ETICS comes with extensive build and test features and can be extended even further with plugins. Plugins are thin wrappers around other build and test tools. The wrapper contains the instructions to execute a tool and allow the ETICS client to activate it if and when needed according to user-defined policies or profiles. Many plugins are available from the ETICS developers and many more can be created by the ETICS user community using the simple specifications provided. Plugins are already available for many types of static and dynamic tests and for several programming languages. ETICS provides also best practice guidelines and workflows for the execution of these plugins and for the collection of quality assurance metrics. The AQCM, or Automated Quality Certification Model, is a practical quality assurance validation method designed and implemented by ETICS that can be used to measure and monitor several quality aspects of software projects. Finally, some words about the ETICS distributed testing feature, also known as parallel testing. This feature allows designing and executing with ETICS complex test workflows involving multiple nodes, services, clients, test scripts and more. ETICS analyzes the test provided by the user and allocates automatically the required number of worker nodes. It deploys and configures the various client and services using the information stored in its configuration database and then executes the tests. Synchronization among the different components of the workflow is done using two simple instrumentation APIs, the ETICS getters and setters, that allow the components to exchange information and orchestrate the correct flow of execution. This feature is currently under development. Prototypes have been designed and implemented in collaboration with some ETICS users. The final version will be available during summer 2009. Now that you have become familiar with the general concepts and features of ETICS, we are ready to start using it, commencing with a more detailed overview of the ETICS portal and its web applications. More information about ETICS can be found on the website at http://www.eticsproject.eu.